Hey, this is Pastor Shannon, and I want to share with you a verse that was the first verse I ever learned as a kid, memorized. It's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. Trust is sometimes a hard thing for us to do. We like the illusion of control and feeling like we're in control, that we are directing our own path. But here's the deal. God can direct your life better than you can. And God can do what you can't do. It's true. And I know we don't like to hear that. But in times like these, it might actually be a comfort. Although trust isn't always an easy thing for us to do. It involves surrender. And we don't like that. But to this verse, I just want to give you a little illustration. It comes from 1 Kings 17. It's a story of Elijah. There's a drought that's come on the land. And he's directed by God to go to a ravine in a valley where there's a brook. And he's told there he can go and he can find water during this drought. But at the same time, there's no food there. And so what does God do? He sends ravens to bring him meat and bread by morning and by evening. And Elijah is fed until the brook dries up. Then God sends Elijah to another town outside of Israel, and he sends him to a widow and says that the widow will be able to care for him and give him a meal. Elijah meets the widow, asks her for bread and some water, and she says, "Look, I'm ready to prepare my last meal for my son and I and die." And Elijah says, "Don't be afraid. The flour in the jar will not run dry, and the oil that you have will not run dry until this drought is ended." And the woman trusts and goes and prepares bread for her and her son and for Elijah, shares her food, and everyone is provided for in that moment. So here's the deal when we talk about trusting God and leaning not on our own understanding. Because God can do what you can't do. Elijah was provided for by things that could not or should not be able to provide for him. Ravens. Ravens should not be able to provide food, bread, and meat for a person. Also, the same is true for a widow who is poor, to provide for another person and include them in her family. But God is able to do things through what looks like shouldn't be possible ways to provide or care for his people. So in the same way, we can trust God to do things that we don't understand and to provide for us in ways that we can't possibly devise or think of. That God can actually make our path straight for us. He can direct us in the right way to go. And with that, He can do a better job of it. And in a time where we cannot even make our own path straight, it's good to know that there is a God who can do what we do even better, and a God who can do what we can't do. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6.